Okay, tonight we start saying in the Shmoneh Esrei v'sein talamotar. So if you want to follow in Ma'ariv tonight in the Siddur, it'll just be easier to understand the din. Okay, so it's on tonight's Ma'ariv, Baruch Aleinu is on 126. So you're supposed to say, shh, v'sein talamotar levracha. Okay, what happens if you didn't? As long as you're within that bracha, let's say you say, Kikel Teiv Atom Verech Hashanim, you say, V'sein Talo Motor Levracha, Al Pnei Ha'adama. You just go back to V'sein Talo Motor and you just continue the bracha. What happened if you said, Baruch Atah Hashem Mevarech Hashanim, and then you realized that you didn't say V'sein Talo Motor? So the din is, you say it there. You say, Baruch Atah Hashem Mevarech Hashanim, V'sein Talo Motor Levracha. That's it, and then you go to Tkaba Shefa Gadol. So if you're in the middle of the bracha, you go back to the same talumator, and then you just continue again where you were left off. And then if you finish the bracha, you say Baruch Atah Hashem Mevarech Hashanim, then you say the same talumator levracha. What happens if you said the word tka? Okay, the next bracha. So then you don't say it until the middle of Shema Koleinu. So on page 127, when you say in middle of Shema Koleinu, closer to the end, you say, Mofanacham Alkeinu Reikam Alta Shivenu. So then you say, V'sein Tal Umata Levracha. Kiata Shemea Tfil's Kope. Okay? So either you say in the middle of Baruch Aleinu or right after Baruch Aleinu. Once you said the word Ka, you wait until Shema Koleinu. You say it before Ki'ata Shemea Tfilas Kope. What happens if you didn't say it there, and you finish the bracha, you said Baruch Atah Hashem Shemea Tfilah, and then you remembered, you say V'sein Talomata Levracha there. You say V'sein Talomata Levracha Ritzei Hashem Elokeinu. Once you said the word Ritzei, then you have to go back to Baruch Aleinu. Once you said the word Ritzei, you have to go back to the bracha Baruch Aleinu. Again, in 126, you have to start from the beginning of the bracha and do it right. So again, if you're in the middle of the bracha, you say it there. If you finish Mevarech Hashanim, you say it there. If you said Tekah, you say it in the middle of Shema Koleinu. If you didn't, you say it at the end of Shema Koleinu. Once you said Ritzei, you have to go back to Baruch Aleinu. What happens if you finish the Shmoneh Esrei? Then you have to do the whole thing again. What happens if you finish the Shmoneh Esrei and you don't remember if you said it or not? For the first 90 tefillas, we assume that you said it the wrong way, what you're accustomed to, and then you have to go back to the beginning of Shmoneh Esrei. So that's how you finish Ma'ariv, and then you realize that you didn't, you don't remember if you said it or not. So the assumption is you didn't. Okay? That's the din of the V'sein Talomata Levracha. The same din applies to Shachris, Mincha, Ma'ariv, no difference. In middle of Baruch Aleinu you say it, or after Baruch Aleinu, or middle of Shema Koleinu, or after Shema Koleinu. If not, you go back to Baruch Aleinu. If you finish the Shmoneh Esrei, you go back and repeat it. Simple. I know you guys have a separate bracha for winter and summer. We have the same bracha, just the difference is you say the same bracha or the same talumot.
Right. So in this case, I say by mistake the summer, it says Baruch Atah Hashem Mevarech Hashanim, and I realize I did that, and I was supposed to say winter. I can go back and just do the Baruch Aleinu.
No, you just say the same talumot levracha. So again, if you say Baruch Atah Hashem Mevarech Hashem, you say V'sein Talumata Levracha.
After I said Baruch Hashanim,
you can say V'sein Talumata Levracha. We just said that. If you started to Kai, you have to do in the middle of Shema Koleinu. Otherwise, once you say Ritzei, you got to go back to Baruch Aleinu. If not, you have to repeat the Shmoneh Esrei. Okay. Now we're learning the din of preparing oneself for davening. We discussed the other day the concept of giving tzedakah before davening. Even for those people that give in the middle of Vayivarach David, you're still supposed to give tzedakah before davening. If they want to give extra in Vayivarach David, like it says, it's not officially a Chabad custom, but if you want to give, you can always give tzedakah. But that doesn't take away from giving tzedakah before davening. Another thing is, without elaborating on it, a person needs to make sure they don't need to use the facilities, the restroom facilities, when they daven. So before davening, the din is you have to check yourself and make sure that you don't need facilities. Because sometimes, if you need to go in the middle of davening, your davening is worthless, and you're going to have to daven again the Shemona Esrei. And it's a long time that you have to be able to hold yourself in. So the best thing is you just check yourself before davening, make sure you use the bathroom, and so on and so forth. Parsa, which is 4 mil. 72 minutes. 72 minutes. It's a pretty long time. A parsa is 4 mil. A mil is either 18 minutes or 24 minutes. The Alter Rebbe Halacha holds a mil is 24 minutes. Unless if it's Chumrah and he holds it's 18. But it's either 72 minutes or 96 minutes. It's a long time. Okay, next. What?
I don't understand. What is this?
You don't have to understand. If you heard what I said, it's fine. That's all you got to know. You don't have to know what he said. Okay, next thing is, there's a rule in Gemara, in Halacha, Yadayim Askani Yasim. The hands are all over the place. So when a person comes into daven, because it could be you touch things that would demand you washing your hands, you put your finger inside your ear, or you picked your nose, or you scratched your hair, or you touch parts of the body which are normally covered. In all those cases, before you daven and make a bracha, you need to wash your hands. Therefore it says in Allah, when you come into shul, before you daven, you have to wash your hands, because you don't know what the hands were doing, what the hands were touching for the rest of the day. Now, if let's say you washed your hands at home and you came to shul and you were careful, you didn't touch anything that would demand washing your hands again, then you don't have to. But the marshal, what happens if you daven mincha, and before mincha you wash your hands, and then you learn, and then you daven ma'ariv? So halachically, you won't have to wash your hands again, because you washed them before mincha, and you're careful not to touch things that would demand washing your hands. Okay, next. Steering wheel is not a problem, unless if there's a lot of dirt on the steering wheel.
Why do some people wash?
Because they don't know in between Mincha and Ma'ariv what they touched. That's the reason. Okay, next. It's very important to daven with a minyan. Person has to make an effort to daven with a minyan. Because it says, Ani svilasi l'cha Hashem eis rotzen, I daven to you in a time, auspicious time. The Gemara says, what's an auspicious time? The time when the minyan is davening. Okay, so when the minyan is davening is the appropriate time to daven. Now, the Gemara says about a minyan, henkel kabel yimas. Hashem never despises the davening of a minyan. Davening with a minyan means davening Shemona Esrei with the minyan. That's what davening with a minyan is. Davening Shemona Esrei with the minyan. The only thing the Alter Rebbe said, that if somebody, let's say, wants to daven longer than the minyan, they want to daven longer than the minyan, and they start with the minyan, even though they don't end up davening Shemona Esrei with the minyan, it's still called Tefillah B'tzibur. Okay, that's what the Alter Rebbe writes. It's brought down Sefer Minhagim. The Alter Rebbe wrote that if you want to daven, as long as you start with the minyan. Starting with the minyan means you start Haidu when the minyan says Haidu, not walking in and talking for 20 minutes and then saying Karbanis and, what?
Or starting 20 minutes before the minyan.
What?
Or starting 20 minutes before the minyan. Which one's better? And then if you daven,
To start with the minyan, and then if you daven longer, it's better. Halachically, we'll learn. We didn't get there. You're not allowed to daven Shemona Esrei before the minyan does.
no, still you daven 20 minutes before the minyan, you get up to Shemona Esrei.
Somebody have to run, go to walk, something.
If they need to leave, they can daven before. Ideally, a person should not daven Shemona Esrei. It's says in Shulchan Aruch. You're not allowed to daven Shemona Esrei before the minyan. But let's go in order over here. Now, the reason to give a physical analogy of why the minyan is a unique time for davening, because to give a mashal, they give, let's say you go to the store and you want to buy a few apples. So you're buying 3-4 apples, you can take each apple and you're going to look it over and make sure there's no dents and no this, holes and no this, no soft spots. When you buy it by a case, you look at the general case. The general case is okay, you don't go through every particular apple. The same thing when a person davens to Hashem as an individual, biyachad, so Hashem looks and your apple is, let me see, let me check you out. Are you worthy or not worthy? The Jews daven with a minyan, they're in a show, 10 people, they're not killing each other, they're not throwing knives at each other. Hashem said the case is good, I'm buying the case. In other words, Hashem accepts the tefillah of a tzibur. Now, what is halachically davening with a minyan? Davening with a minyan means 6 people, this is what the Alter Rebbe holds. 6 people davening with the minyan. In other words, to have a minyan, you need to have 6 people davening with the minyan. To do chazar sashatz, to do the repetition, then you need, in addition to the 6 people that davened, you need together as a minyan, you need 9 people answering the bracha. Okay? So, if you still have, let's say, a bunch of people davening and you have exactly a minyan, you have an issue sometimes, according to many poskim. It's a big machlekes in poskim. But the bottom line is, so if you have 6 people that davened, and 9 people answering Baruch Hu Shmei and Amen, primarily Amen, that's called Tefillah B'tzibur. Okay? So what happens in the case that you have, which is, not, it's mentioned in the Yesha, other poskim bring it down. What happens if you had, let's say, you had 9 people davening. You didn't have a minyan, you had 9 people davening. And 6 people daven Shemon Esrei. Now you finish Shemon Esrei, the 10th guy rolls in. So now you have a minyan. But you didn't have when they daven Shemon Esrei. So the din is, that's called Tefillah B'tzibur. Why? Because you have both criteria. You have 6 people that davened, and now by the repetition, you're having 9 people answering. You have a minyan. So then, you would be allowed, that's called Tefillah B'tzibur. So to make sure, halachically, a minyan means 6 people daven Shemon Esrei together. But if you have a minyan that only 5 people davened, you cannot do chazar sashatz. What you could do is what's called the heicha kedusha. The guy that didn't daven yet could go over to the Amid, say the first 3 brachas into kedusha out loud, and then the minyan together says kedusha, and then he davens the rest of Shemon Esrei quietly.
Can you say it again?
Huh? Can you say what again?
What you just said, can you say it again?
I said, what happens if you have 6, you only had 5 people davening. You had 20 people in the room, but everybody's busy talking, or eating, or drinking, or whatever. You ended up with 5 people davening Shemon Esrei. So now you can't repeat the Shemon Esrei, right? So what you do is, one of the guys that didn't daven yet goes over to the Amud, does the first 3 brachas out loud, through Kedusha, everybody answers Kedusha, and then he says Ata Kodesh loud, and after Akel HaKodesh, he davens quietly the rest. But then you can't repeat the Shemon Esrei because you didn't have 6 people that davened together. That's all. Huh?
So you just wait for him to finish his Shemon Esrei.
No, but if he started after everybody finished, then you don't have 6.
You cannot do the Kaddish.
You can't.
You got the Kedusha because he showed up, he was your 10th.
No, I'm saying a different case. You have 20 people in the show, but only 5 guys davened.
Amida.
Either the Chaz went too fast, and therefore people went up to Shemon Esrei yet, or he davened too slow and people went way ahead. If you don't have 6 people davening Shemon Esrei together, you can't do Chazar Sashatz.
Why is the premise of the world that if you come in and people are in a rush, it's favor? So we're going to only do a Hech Kedusha. So first you do the Hech Kedusha, and then everybody does their silence.
Right?
Why wouldn't you rather have everybody do their silence?
How many is everybody?
What?
How many is everybody?
You have, the 10 people.
No. They all davened?
They all came daven, but they don't want to do the shot. But they're just not gonna.
They're lazy.
Whatever.
Or people are going to leave before the minyan.
Sorry. But I'm saying whoever does it, I'm saying it's the proper thing to do. If whoever does it, the saying that it is that people do is that somebody does the halachic kedusha,
And then everybody davens.
Why would everybody daven the silent and then do a halachic kedusha?
No, usually that's the first way is the way they do it. Everybody does it like that. They make a halachic kedusha, because it saves times that way, by the way. Those are big halachic kedusha because they're rushed.
Why they call it
In the Chassidus Sha'elam,
It was that the kedusha would be able to say that the kedusha would come.
it's not all say that anyway because they're doing halachic kedusha. No, at least they're davening together anyway. The Ilam's davening together, whether it's before or after, doesn't matter. Now, in a lot of places, like especially in the Litvish places, in the yeshivas, they'll do a halachic kedusha because they don't want to waste time from learning. So they'll make a halachic kedusha. But Lepel, in Chabad, we never do it. We never do a halachic kedusha, unless if the minyan is mamish going to leave, and then you have no choice. But we don't do a halachic kedusha even if it's late, whatever. We daven a regular mincha, because chazor the shots is a very important thing.
Question, they call it halachic kedusha because
Halachic kedusha, because everybody says kedusha out. Everybody says kedusha out loud, that's why.
because it's Kurban Habayit.
No, I don't know. That's what it's called.
When you do that, you're really davening like a chazan. Everybody's davening with the whole shmoneh from the beginning until the chazan stops saying it out loud. No. When they do a halachic kedusha, only the chazan starts saying. Everybody starts after a Kel HaKodesh. So everybody starts Hashem Sefaseh
After he finishes a Kel HaKodesh, right.
I don't think that's understood by most people.
No, that's the way they do it.
I think people have seen, they start davening with the chazan. And then
A lot of people do a lot of things that you shouldn't be doing. I'm saying, they don't start together with the chazan. What you're talking about is, if somebody, the chazan's about to start the Shemoneh Esrei, and you want to daven with the chazan, so then you'll start, not by halachic kedusha, you'll start the Shemoneh Esrei together with the chazan. It's interesting, the Alter Rebbe in Shulchan Aruch says you shouldn't do that. The Alter Rebbe says to wait at Shira Chadasha, and then after Kedusha start your Shemoneh Esrei. But if somebody by mistake said, Baruch Atah Hashem Goal Yisrael, then he has to start together with the chazan. Because he's now to be mafsik at all, so then he starts Shemoneh Esrei with the chazan to be continued.